Hello dear subscribers and guests of the Garage Technology channel. Today's topic continues anti-gravity, which many have come to love, but some of course criticize it. The fact is that this of cars is unusual, too good to be true. That's how everyone thinks. But today we talk a bit about theory and a bit about practical exercises. This video is just for you. At this moment, without the theory, practice is blind, and practice without theory is foolish and a little bit so you. At this stage, I want to give you a little talk about the theory in this matter, and we will start the gravity coordination with the fact that many gravity seekers tend to complicate everything and come up with very complex structures. But the answer, as always, is very simple. First of all, let's remember Grebennikov. He started with small gravity plane models. They were made from handy materials like paper, film, foil, thread, wire. These materials were used to make the first structures. But what served as the starting point for creating the first prototypes? Let's recall he was studying beetles, and a beetle is a creature on its own, right? Remember I showed over there, perhaps one to YouTube. The device above the wings, it's kind of unique, but in principle there is nothing complicated and it can be replicated. First of all, I suggest you consider a simple common theory: gravity. People often ask me, do you know, dear author, what gravity is and how to? To understand what anti-gravity is, you need to understand what gravity is. Yes, guys, I know what gravity is. You know, the thing is that the Earth has a significant amount of matter, and matter is made up of ether, and that the matter constantly grows. Why? What do you think? Why is this? Yes, because matter constantly absorbs ether within itself. The ether inside matter sort of crystallizes and turns back into matter. Exactly this ether flow is what attracts us to the ground. We are simply sucked in or compressed, as ether is very dense. Easily passes through the material. Then matter for the ether turns out to be a coarse sieve, you know. Even a large sieve has a kind of small cell capacity. This is quite enough to create a force of gravity. But here now you need to carefully look at what is happening. We are attracted to the Earth. We are sort of, it does not attract to the ground, but as it were, pushes us. From the top, it's exactly the Earth that pulls. But here you see, you can, as they say at a crossroads, either it attracts us or it sucks into the ground. Here is one of those rules that creates the force of gravity for us. Some lean towards the idea that it's not pressing us from above, but specifically pulling us in. If you were to somehow make a screen, for example, that would shield us from being sucked in, it would definitely need to be made from the bottom. For the screen, it should be down. As you said, remember the phrase Grebennikov. There was a platform, it has if you remember its design, it was from below. He stood on it. So the first thing we understood is that we need to shield specifically from the Earth, and so on. If we consider the theory, what can you make a screen out of? If you use, say, any matter, then it will definitely be useless. But it's simply useless, as the ether passes through it like through a sieve. It's like, sailing in a boat made of chain link fence, right? Here's how we can affect the ether. Remember the electromagnetic wave. With the help of an antenna and transmitter, we can create oscillations in the ether. Remember, say, an electromagnet. We create a magnetic field using voltage. Remember, say, a simple light bulb. We create light with voltage. We take small steps with electromagnetic wave. These are long waves. Well, we, with the help of these waves, as it were, influence matter. And now, attention, what is common between all this? And the key answer is simple. We have to know that we influence the ether with voltage, and matter is the intermediary for this. So it turns out we influence matter, and matter is closely linked with the ether. It stabilizes it. In turn, it influences the ether. So the second thing we understood, you can influence the ether only by influencing the matter. There seem to be no other options, or at least we don't know them yet. Next, and now the main question, how to affect the ether to create a screen from the earth. Let's recall how a simple capacitor works. The fact is that a capacitor consists of plates, the electrics, and it retains its charge precisely in the dielectric. Let's look at the drawing. See, the dipoles in the dielectric material align themselves according to the applied charge plates. As a result, the dielectric forms a strictly oriented spin. Well, you can ask, of course, these dipole positions affect the boundaries of ether flows. Let's consider the first option. For instance, we see the earth from below horizontally, the object and the capacitor between the earth and the object. What do we have in this position? The position of the dipole in this case matches the gravitational flux voltage. Of course, with such a layout, literally nothing will change. What is the horizontal position of the dielectric changes? What do you think? What if the capacitor is placed at a 45-degree angle? Here is the second, let's say, experiment. Tilt for experiment, we put a condenser at a 45-degree angle between the object and the earth. Now here's where it gets interesting. The thing is, polarized dipoles are closely related to the ether. This means that the air in the dielectric zone and partially around it is distorted. Here we managed to create a partial shielding. So we kind of redirected the flow a bit. What if we create a capacitor as an accordion or a cavity? Will be turned to a certain degree. Let's do such work. Take film capacitor, more precisely coat and stick it to the regular high voltage paper. We mesh high voltage dielectrics and make a capacitor out of it. We follow the plate accordion style. Here we have such a thing. Now we are making this kind of construction. We are balancing a wooden ruler, then placing our capacitor under it, and we charge it with high voltage around 16,000 volts. Here it is, such a structure. Now to our great surprise, at the moment of charge and discharge, the ruler tends to go up. The balance is disrupted. It's as total electrostatics, it's another phenomenon. With a small gap in the capacitor charges, when charging a capacitor, a cracking sound is heard. This is accompanied by noticeable weight loss. The same happens when discharging. If you carefully start to discharge the capacitor with tweezers, you can hear a hissing sound, and the end of the ruler strongly tends upward. Is the capacitor is charged or discharged? It does not affect the balance. So it turns out the ether adjusts to the changes. For our screen to work continuously, we need to connect dischargers in parallel to the capacitor and achieve a glowing discharge through it. So this is what we have, theoretical conclusion. Now an important detail. The screen doesn't seem to lose its weight, the objects above it lose weight. The main mistake of all seekers is that they are trying to launch a gravitoplane. For the gravity plane to fly, we need a weight that would somehow pull the gravity plane up. And the cargo should be significantly heavier than the gravitoplane itself. As strange as this may sound, the platform will only fly with a very hefty pilot. Well, now look at the drawings of one of the flying saucers of the engineers of the Third Reich. This is a photograph taken from the archives when looked through the archives of NNRB. See here, it's folded like an accordion. Here you go. The part of the top disk membrane. It is what creates this levitation effect. Charges the telecigi ether stabilize, and the ether can't adjust to them, and that's why such imbalance occurs. So it takes off. The levitation effect happens because of this. Now, how to choose pulses and of what intensity, of what voltage? The following experiments will show this